On her first visit to Australia, she has sprung into the history books as, some would say, one of the greatest gymnasts of all time. I would say the greatest gymnast ever.
Simone Biles has redefined what the human body can achieve, breaking records and performing skills few gymnasts would ever attempt. For years, the world viewed her as almost superhuman, a symbol of perfection, courage, and unstoppable determination. But behind the medals and breathtaking routines lies a far more complicated truth. What happens when even the greatest athlete reaches limits that talent and willpower cannot overcome? Beneath every flawless landing are hidden sacrifices, physical strain, and emotional battles. This is the story of the painful reality behind greatness and the true cost of becoming a legend. The hidden weight of greatness. Simone Biles is widely seen as a symbol of physical perfection and mental toughness, someone who defied what was thought humanly possible. Yet behind every astonishing landing and flawless routine lies a profound, hidden burden few have glimpsed. It's a truth that doesn't come from medal counts or highlight reels, but from the quiet, relentless toll her body and mind have carried for decades. The world knew her as invincible, but that image was only one side of a complicated story. For years, Simone's extraordinary abilities created a narrative of someone almost beyond human limits, an unbreakable athlete who seemed immune to the struggles that slow others down. People watch her vaults with awe, marveling at the height, the twist, and the precision, assuming such effort would come without cost. But every moment of greatness comes with its own price, and Simone's is heavier than most could imagine. The real story is less about the record-breaking moves and more about the price tag attached to each of them. Her achievements created an illusion, a myth of endless strength. The public saw medals, not muscle tears. The cameras caught victories, not moments when she wished she could stop but had to keep going. Simone's body has been pushed to extremes few ever endure, and the cost was quietly accumulating beneath the surface. The tension between the invincible figure the world idolized and the fragile human underneath is where the true tragedy begins. Her story challenges the idea that talent and willpower alone can protect against breakdowns. It asks a bigger question: how much strain can a human body and spirit truly endure before it reaches a limit? Simone wasn't the only one with a breaking point, but hers received a spotlight unlike any other. This story will reveal the unseen burdens she carried for years before they finally became impossible to ignore. For years, the world watched Simone pull off feats that almost looked superhuman, but nobody really saw the little private wars she fought with wounds that couldn't be seen, the intense training schedules, the relentless pressure to keep looking perfect, and the mental struggles meant to stay out of public view all stacked up over time.
USA Gymnastics says it wholeheartedly supports Simone Biles' decision after the star gymnast announced she's withdrawing for the Olympic all-around finals to focus on her mental health.
Behind those bright smiles and the jaw-dropping routines was a nervous system pushed to the very edge. The strain she carried was not just physical, it was also psychological, like both sides of one thin chain tightly connected. This tension, this quiet struggle, isn't only Simone's, but it gets even louder when you consider the expectations built around her as the best in the world. The higher you climb, the harder it becomes to admit that the ascent is starting to hurt. Simone's path shows, in a very painful way, how elite athletes exist inside a world that wants brilliance, yet often forgets to count the cost of keeping it. The times when the facade finally cracked, those moments, say more than any medal tally ever could. The distance between perception and reality is, in its own way, a tragedy. Like, if greatness is talked about as if it means invulnerability, then the struggle ends up kind of unseen, or it gets dismissed too easily. Simone's story makes you face the awkward truth that even the most decorated champions have boundaries, and sometimes those boundaries bring consequences nobody really forecasts. Her path, somehow, will nudge how we understand strength, and also how we understand vulnerability. None of it was obvious to the outside world for a while, maybe too long. Simone's brilliance, it sort of masked the messy complexity of what she was enduring. The full weight of what carrying greatness actually means didn't really come to light until much later, when the only real option was to step away from the spotlight. What's under that spotlight is what we'll uncover next. including how a girl with tough beginnings managed to rise and shift her sport, and what her route suggests about the real price of being the best. These layers beneath the medals and records hint at a deeper story, one that begins long before international fame and Olympic gold medals. Simone's past and early years reveal the roots of both her incredible resilience and the challenges she had to overcome to even reach the heights she did. A future champion's humble start. Simone Biles was born in Columbus, Ohio, but her start in life was fraught with instability. By the time she was just 3 years old, her mother's struggles made it impossible to care for her 4 children. Simone and her siblings entered the foster care system, living apart from their biological parents during some of their most formative years. It was a difficult beginning that could have derailed a far less determined child. Her grandparents Ron and Nellie Biles stepped in, driving all the way from Texas to take Simone and her sister Adria into their home. Eventually, they adopted both girls, providing the stability and love that Simone desperately needed. This change planted seeds that would allow her resilience to grow. It was in Spring, Texas, at the age of 6, that Simone's life truly took a pivotal turn. A simple daycare field trip to a nearby gymnastics gym introduced her to a world she might never have entered otherwise. After watching Simone move naturally through the gym, coaches sent a letter home offering an opportunity to train formally. That letter seems small, but in retrospect, it is one of the most consequential moments not just for Simone, but for the history of American gymnastics. By age 8, Simone was already competing in gymnastics. Her exceptional talent was clear very early on, but it was her tremendous work ethic that propelled her forward. Training for 6 days a week, 8 hours a day, became her regular routine. Under the guidance of coach Amy Borman, she trained outside Houston, driven by a rare combination of natural ability and relentless practice. Her progress was meteoric, but the world outside had yet to grasp the magnitude of what was unfolding. At 16, she won her first world championship all-around title, an achievement marked by poise and technical precision far beyond her years. She repeated this feat at 17, 18, and 19, a streak unheard of in gymnastics.
No one wins the battle against physics and gravity quite like Simone Biles. The march through gymnastics mythology continues.
Each year, her performances redefined what was thought possible. Simone's name slowly became like a shortcut for groundbreaking difficulty and near perfection. Moves on the floor exercise, balance beam, and vault started getting called the Biles. So people didn't even bother with all the details, because she was the first or maybe only gymnast doing them in competition. The International Gymnastics Federation then went further and named 7 skills after her, which really was a sign she redrew the sport's physical boundaries, not just a little bit. Under all that spotlight, though, there was a girl who had lived through trauma and instability, and she still managed to keep going thanks to her family and this steady, relentless drive. Her beginnings remind us that big greatness rarely shows up in comfort. It tends to grow from ongoing friction with hardship. The fact that Simone could climb so high after a start that was so shaky, well, it points to an inner strength that wasn't theoretical at all. But even that resilience came with costs that most people never saw. The relentless training started when she was still young, and it started asking for more than anyone could comfortably guess, both physically and mentally. What her earlier life taught her was endurance, yet it didn't fully, completely, prepare her or anyone else for the kind of toll that later arrived. And if you zoom out, her story also shows how one moment, like a letter from a gym, can reroute a life, and then, almost like dominoes, an entire sport. Once that early foundation was placed, it's not surprising the gymnastics world couldn't really look away when she surged. Her next chapter was the stretch of years when no one else could match her momentum or her evolution. Not for long, anyway. Simone's rise stunned the sports world, capturing imaginations everywhere and pushing gymnastics into new, uncharted territory. Rise to unmatched dominance. Simone Biles' ascent in gymnastics was nothing short of revolutionary. By her late teens, she was rewriting the rulebook on what was physically achievable, performing skills that combined power, precision, and complexity unlike anything seen before. Her dominance was not gradual. It was overwhelming. Each competition felt like witnessing history being made. Winning her first world championship all-around title at 16 was just the beginning. She defended that title 3 more times in a row, at 17, 18, and 19. Such consistency and technical mastery created a new standard for the sport. While others chased her, Simone set a pace no one could match. Her vaults, balance beam routines, and floor exercises carried a unique signature. The Biles on floor and vault involved twists and flips so complex that no other gymnast had dared to attempt them in competition. The International Gymnastics Federation officially named these moves after her, a rare honor that cements her legacy in the sport's history. The 2016 Rio Olympics were a coronation for Simone. She won 4 gold medals and 1 bronze, dominating in a way that made the American team appear in a league of their own. Her victories translated into a ticker-tape parade in New York City and endorsement deals that elevated her to cultural icon status. She seemed untouchable, a once-in-a-generation athlete whose story was breathtaking. Coaches analyzed every frame of her vaults and spins, scientists published papers on her extraordinary spatial awareness, and young gymnasts across continents pinned her photos to their bedroom walls. Simone represented an ideal many aspired to, but few truly understood. The fusion of talent, willpower, and sheer physical capacity pushed beyond previous limits. This rapid rise to the pinnacle brought intense scrutiny and expectation. Simone was now carrying not just medals, but the hopes of an entire sport and nation. The world started to believe she was built differently, a notion reinforced by every flawless routine and record-setting move. The narrative solidified. Simone was beyond human. Behind this story, however, were countless hours of brutal training and sacrifice, a relentless program that demanded physical and mental sacrifices few could imagine. Every victory deepened the pressure to perform, to keep pushing boundaries even further. The summit of greatness came with a steep, often hidden cost. Her period of unmatched dominance transformed gymnastics and athleticism forever. Yet it also set the stage for the challenges and struggles that would later come into stark relief. What appeared invincible on the surface was carrying cracks underneath, waiting for the moment they might show. Simone's incredible rise invites us to celebrate her achievements, but also to question what it means when an athlete's body and mind are pushed so far that the price becomes too high to pay. The story of her dominance is inseparable from the story of what came after. Even the most breathtaking victories hold shadows, and soon those shadows would demand attention. The intensity of Simone's journey from detractors and doubters to icon and champion would soon collide with a more human reckoning. The toll on the body. Simone Biles' physical prowess came at a cost few could fully see or understand. Elite artistic gymnastics demands a level of endurance and durability that defies common athletic standards. But it is not the result of a single moment of trauma. Instead, the damage accumulates slowly over time, like an invisible ledger recording every punishing landing and every twist. Her body absorbed thousands of impacts on ankles, knees, and a spine, forced to rotate and compress in ways no other sport requires. Starting serious training at 8 years old, Simone committed to a grueling regimen that meant long hours for 16 years. 6 days a week, 8 hours a day on average. Countless joints and muscles were pushed beyond what most athletes ever endure. Stress fractures were treated as part of routine management rather than signals to rest, and joint wear was carefully monitored instead of avoided. This was a discipline where injury wasn't a roadblock, but something to work through. The physical demands on Simone's body were extraordinary because of the skills she performed. Moves like the Yurchenko double pike on vault and the high-difficulty tumbling passes on floor require a perfect storm of speed, timing, and control. The Federation naming these moves after her reflects their extreme technical challenge, but it also hints at the severity of the strain placed on her body repeatedly. Every medal and applause masked the gradual unseen wear that was setting in beneath the surface. Gymnastics at this level is not just about power, but about precision under enormous pressure. Competing at world-class meets means pushing a body already worn from training to its limits day after day. Simone's nervous system endured tens of thousands of high-impact landings over more than a decade. The subtle but persistent stress on her muscles, bones, and nerves mounted, a burden that no amount of sports science papers or slow-motion footage could capture. What the world saw was pretty extraordinary athleticism. Like, sure, wow. What nobody really saw was the cost Simone's body quietly paid for every vault, beam, mount, and floor routine done with this seeming effortless thing. And that gap between the flashy excellence and the invisible toll really shows a harsh truth about elite sports. The scoreboard never tells the entire story. With every medal Simone brought home, the invoice for her sacrifice just kept growing. That physical strain, mounting more and more, also weighed heavily on her mind and emotional well-being. Pushing through pain draws this line. Eventually, it gets blurry, because resilience starts to look too much like damage. The pressure to stay perfect, to keep raising the bar in difficulty and performance, turned into a kind of loop where there was almost no breathing space for rest or recovery. Each meet became more than just a test of skill. It was a trial by this pressure cooker of physical strain and psychological stress. Simone's body was this finely tuned yet fragile machine, pushed hard for 23 years, even as it slowly started signaling for a slower pace. The split between public triumph and private toll becomes the clearest when the cracks begin to show up. The border between a pose and pain is thin, but Simone kept stepping across it, driven by passion and this almost singular, let's redefine what's possible desire. And still, despite all that non-stop demand, the world mostly received a narrative of dominance and victory. The real fight was simmering under everything, unspoken, but it was still there, unavoidable. That quiet buildup of stress would keep rising until it became something that couldn't be ignored anymore, setting the stage for the exact time when it finally mattered. The body remembers what the calendar forgets, and Simone's physical history was lodged deep inside her, waiting to change everything once it could no longer be silenced. Even greater challenges loomed not in the body alone, but in the mind, forces just as elusive and equally demanding. The twisties and mental health. One of the most misunderstood and dangerous phenomena in gymnastics is the twisties, a sudden loss of spatial awareness mid-air that turns a routine from a performance into a perilous risk. Simone Biles confronted this terrifying condition during the 2021 Tokyo Olympics, and it forced her to make the painful decision to withdraw from multiple events. The twisties are not about fear or nerves. They are a neurological disconnect between what the body does and what the brain expects, cutting the athlete's ability to safely control their movements. In a sport where timing and precision are everything, the twisties can be a life-threatening emergency. For Simone, the arrival of this condition was a clear signal that her nervous system was overloaded, pushed past limits by years of accumulated stress and exhaustion. She had been overriding warning signs for a long time, driven by the world's demands and her own ambition. But the twisties could not be silenced or ignored. The public reaction to Simone's withdrawal was a mix of confusion, respect, and debate, but few understood the severity of what was happening. The conversation centered mostly on her choice to prioritize mental health instead of the deeper question of what had brought her to that breaking point. This hidden struggle was never about weakness. It was about survival in an environment where the mind and body were pushed to extremes. Mental health challenges like these are often overshadowed by the visible brilliance of athletic feats. Simone's openness about her experience with therapy and recovery between Tokyo and Paris marked a new chapter of vulnerability and self-care. She spoke about processing the trauma, giving herself permission to be more than just the greatest gymnast in the world, and grappling with the realities behind the symbol of invincibility she had become. Her mental health journey was as long and grueling as any physical injury, unfolding in the public eye, but often obscured by admiration for her skills. The years following Tokyo were publicly described as a time of healing and return, but the physical and emotional ledger of stress remained unpaid. Simone's marriage in April 2023 to NFL player Jonathan Owens gave her personal joy.
Simone Biles is officially a married woman. The Olympic gold medalist ties the knot to NFL player Jonathan Owens. The couple began dating in August 2020 and announced their engagement last February.
But did not erase the cumulative burden. Returning to competition in 2023 and 2024, Simone's performances were technically extraordinary, even surpassing her pre-Tokyo form. She reclaimed titles and won multiple gold medals at the 2024 Paris Olympics, reaffirming her place atop the sport. Yet underneath this revival was a body and mind, still navigating the unseen toll of years spent on the edge. The twisties serve as a reminder that gymnastics is as much a mental battle as a physical one. They are a warning sign of how the nervous system rebels when pushed too far, forcing athletes to confront not only what they can do, but what they should be allowed to do. Simone's experience challenges the narrative of relentless drive and perfection at any cost. Her story makes clear that mental health struggles don't negate greatness. They expose the real cost of achieving it. The tension between the idealized image of invincibility and the lived reality of vulnerability remains the most profound truth in Simone's journey, setting the stage for the final reckoning to come. Even as Simone returned to competition with remarkable triumph, the hidden burdens she carried were far from over, poised to reveal themselves in ways no medal could shield. The public narrative versus reality. For 2 decades, Simone Biles was framed as something almost untouchable, a transcendent athlete who operated on a different plane than everyone else. The image was reinforced by countless media moments: gold medals, slow-motion vaults defying gravity, and signature moves bearing her name. The world needed her to be a symbol of pure will and invincibility, showing what human dedication and talent could achieve. This narrative was powerful, inspiring millions to believe in limitless possibility. But that narrative came with a cost. It compressed the complexities of Simone's experience into a simple story of greatness without struggle. The public rarely glimpsed the private realities, the long hours, the pain, the mental exhaustion that lived alongside the medals. This gap between perception and experience created a lonely space where Simone had to both live up to her myth and manage the cracks behind the scenes. While fans celebrated perfection, Simone grappled with her body, sending warning signals she was trained to ignore. In a world forced to perform, admitting vulnerability risked derailing the carefully constructed illusion. The pressure to maintain that narrative isolated her, making it harder to ask for the rest and support her body and mind desperately needed. What the audience saw was a flawless routine. What Simone lived was a fragile balance between pushing boundaries and protecting herself from breaking. The idolization blurred the lines between Simone the athlete and Simone the person. This duality meant the real wounds often remained out of sight. This was a story shaped not just by Simone, but by an industry and an audience, I guess, hungry for heroes who could rise above human limitation. The wanting for an unshakable figure left little room to imagine her as more than just extraordinary. Also human, you know? The more she kept proving herself untouchable, the fewer people seemed to notice the actual battles she fought from day to day inside her own skin. The whole idea of invincibility left this thin, almost empty space for the truth that bodies and minds have limits. No amount of willpower really erases. Simone's experience shows, pretty clearly, how risky it gets when society demands nonstop strength and refuses to acknowledge the cost.
In the world of gymnastics, and she decided midway through her team competition to step away. A lot of discussion now around mental health, the issues that we've heard.
Her journey also reveals the high price exacted when an athlete becomes a symbol instead of a person. That dissonance got sharper after the Tokyo Olympics too. While the world argued about her withdrawal, most folks didn't see it as a turning point. Like the hidden reality just pierced the narrative veil. What the cameras didn't catch were years of silent suffering, building up until Simone hit some kind of breaking point. Behind closed doors, she wasn't only the champion. She was a woman paying an immense physical and psychological bill. The public storyline and the private reality were basically diverging roads, and each one shaped her life in very different ways. Once you recognize that, the story splits open into a new understanding beyond medals and myths. Simone's story pushes us to ask how we honor greatness without erasing humanity. It's also like a reminder that the clearest view of an icon is sometimes found in their own vulnerabilities. The tension between image and reality would persist even as Simone prepared for one of the most remarkable returns in sports history. A remarkable comeback. After stepping away from competition to prioritize her mental and physical health, Simone Biles began an extraordinary return to elite gymnastics in 2023.
Gymnastics superstar Simone Biles is set to return to international competition this week. The 26-year-old plans to take part in the 2023 World Gymnastics Championships in Belgium, which is the same place where she won her first world title.
Her comeback was not simply about returning to the sport she loved. It was about rebuilding trust in herself, reclaiming control over her body, and competing on her own terms. When Simone returned, she appeared stronger and more focused than ever. Her routines combined the power that made her famous with greater precision, patience, and self-awareness. At the 2023 World Championships, she captured the individual all-around title, proving that she remained one of the greatest gymnasts in history. Her success carried deeper meaning because she was no longer chasing victory at any cost. After experiencing the twisties at the Tokyo Olympics, Simone understood the dangers of ignoring her mind and body. Her return showed that protecting yourself does not make you weak. It can give you the strength to rise again. By the 2024 Paris Olympics, the world was watching closely. Simone delivered a remarkable performance, winning gold medals in the team competition, individual all-around, and vault. She also earned silver in the floor exercise. Every medal represented more than athletic dominance. Each one symbolized recovery, courage, and the decision to continue despite everything she had endured. Simone's comeback challenged the idea that resilience means returning unchanged. She did not erase her struggles or pretend they never happened. Instead, she accepted them as part of her story and moved forward with greater wisdom. Her journey became an inspiration far beyond gymnastics. It showed athletes and fans that vulnerability and greatness can exist together. Simone Biles did not return to prove she was invincible. She returned to prove that acknowledging your limits does not mean surrendering your dreams. Her comeback redefined what it truly means to be a champion. But even after this remarkable resurgence, life had one more profound test in store, one that would forever alter how we understand the toll of her journey. The boundaries between triumph and struggle blurred as Simone faced a crisis that no medal could overshadow: the hospital and true cost. Weeks after her return to the Paris Olympics, Simone Biles faced a challenge no medal could prepare her for: a serious health scare that landed her in the hospital. At 29 years old, after more than 2 decades of pushing her body to the limit, she revealed a chilling truth: "I almost died." Those words shocked fans around the world and forced many to see her journey in a new light. With 37 World Championship medals and multiple skills named after her, Simone has long been viewed as nearly unstoppable. Her performances often seem to defy physics, inspiring millions and redefining what gymnasts could achieve. But behind every flawless landing and historic routine was a body carrying years of strain, sacrifice, and relentless pressure. For years, the public kind of bought into this idea that Simone was untouchable, like immune to injury, exhaustion, or doubt. But really, the story was way different. Like every elite athlete, she was carrying this increasing physical and mental burden. No amount of talent just could erase it. Her hospital stay turned into this hard reminder that even the biggest champions are still stuck inside human limits. The images that made Simone famous, soaring through the air with unmatched precision, looked like pure possibility and excellence. Still, they also hid the risks and the day-to-day demands that come with performing at the absolute highest level. Every routine asked her to weigh greatness against the constant threat of injury and burnout. When Simone finally shared her experience, she basically pulled away the mythology and let people see something even more motivating: her humanity. Her honesty didn't reduce her accomplishments, it actually gave them more depth. It suggested that true strength is less about being invincible and more about facing vulnerability with courage. More than a story about medals and records, Simone Biles' journey works like a reminder that greatness always has a price, and that resilience often shows up right in those moments where our humanity is most visible, even when it's not neat or perfect. Simone Biles' journey reminds us that greatness often comes with hidden costs, and that real strength includes the courage to be vulnerable. Her story challenges everything we think we know about champions and the sacrifices behind their success. If her journey inspired you, like this video and subscribe for more powerful stories about the icons the world only thinks it knows. Then, keep watching by clicking the next video on your screen, where another remarkable story is waiting to be uncovered.